Hey there, welcome to the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters and writers and editors and journalists and all different people who are writing about our home borough of the Bronx. And in our second segment, we usually do artists or creators of some sort, people putting stuff out. And in our second segment this evening, I am thrilled because we are going to have one of the foremost comic book writers in the Bronx who's got a new product he's going to tell us about. But to get started, we're going to be serious now, and we're going to talk to somebody who's going to talk about congestion pricing. Wrote a fabulous op-ed piece that we're going to review. So it is my pleasure to welcome from the Haitian American Caucus U.S. Incorporated. It is Mr. Samuel Pierre. Nice to have you with us.
Hey, thank you so much, man. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited
Good.
to be on Bronx Buzz. We're really excited
Great.
about it.
Great. Thank you very much. The reason, we talked about writers and journalists and editors. Sam is the executive director of the aforementioned organization, but he wrote what I found to be a fascinating op-ed piece, an editorial in City Limits about congestion pricing. And it really, now listen, let's be clear. Nobody knows what's going on with this thing. It's out of control. And for good reason, because this is a complex city, and you're going to start charging people for this. You're going to start charging other people for this. Some people are going to do well. Some people are not going to do well. It's going to impact how people live and how they interact with especially lower than 60th Street in Manhattan. But Mr. Pierre had a point of view that I had not considered. And so, why don't you talk to us from the perspective of the Haitian American Caucus, and why you were like, wait a minute, I'm not so sure this is what we want to do. So why don't you lay it out for us?
Right. So, yeah, Gary. So, here it is, right? Our organization. First, let me just tell everyone a little bit about the Haitian American Caucus. We are a community development nonprofit organization that focuses around economic development, health and wellness, and education and learning. We operate similarly to the National Urban League and the NAACP, but our demographic is specifically the Haitian community. We're here in the United States, and we also have a 4-acre campus in the area, in the Quadabuque area in Haiti, where we have an elementary, junior high school, and a high school. So here in the U.S., I serve as the executive director. Domestically, we focus on economic development, workforce development. We want our people to be able to adapt to the American culture so that they can do better for themselves. So in that, we're always interested in the careers and the fields that our members participate in. A lot of our members are Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, right? 4-hour workers. So a lot of them do DoorDash and Grubhub, and looking for additional ways to bring to make ends meet, right? So because of that, we're very interested in and we're invested in policies that are going to shape our members, right, and how it can impact them, especially from an immigrant community. For the most part, they always come in at the tail end. We get the short end of the stick after the policies is created and
Oh,
the
and
changes
then
are
it comes
made.
out, and then it's like, oh, by the way, what do we do about that?
Right. So, because we understand policy, and I have a background in government and policy, I'm very involved in these things.
So,
So,
so the
when the
idea here is to put this on the table now as one of the considerations while the plan is being
while
crafted.
the plan is being developed, right?
So,
So we,
go ahead.
yeah. So we just came in, and to make it short and sweet and simple, we just said, hey, well, what about the driver? What about the end user? Right? Are you considering them? Are you considering people who need to get Ubers and Lyfts? Right? Are you considering them? Are we considering the communities of color? That's it.
So let's just play it out. So, okay, somebody wants to is a driver, and maybe somebody picks them up in the Bronx, and they say, "Hey, I want to get to 53rd Street in Manhattan," and then and it's during the workday, and maybe it's an Uber or Lyft driver, and they're just doing their job, and they come in, and all of a sudden they're charged whatever the rate is, another $12, another $20. Do they get exempted? Do they get a discount? Can they pass that along to the driver, to the person who hires it, which
So
also
passenger.
certainly from the Bronx would impact communities of color because then they're going to, instead of a $45 ride, that became a $65 ride, for
$65
example.
ride. Right. Right.
Well,
Which
go ahead.
it discourages everyone. It discourages everyone, right? And it just doesn't feel good. It just doesn't feel
And
good. It discourages people.
do you have numbers? How many let's say members in your Haitian caucus are drivers, or you just know there are a lot?
No, I mean we know that because of the surveys that we take. I'd like to say out of the 3,000 plus members that we have, let's just say for argument's sake, 10% of them are drivers, right?
It's 300.
So let's say 10% of, yeah, let's say it's 300 drivers, right?
Wow.
So imagine 300 drivers who are used to this, this income, disposable income. This is the income that's putting
Yeah.
their kids in after
And
school
and and
programs, things
and you
like
know
that.
what? I'm playing this out as we're talking. So then the person who is considering using that service, and maybe they need to do it. In other words, you say, well, then take the train, which is a nice answer. But let's say that there's a health issue involved or some other issue that they absolutely need to take a ride in. They may be less likely to use the service. They get impacted, and certainly the drivers who don't get the rides get impacted. Um,
Right.
how do you solve this? Are you asking for a break? Are you asking for a discount? Are you asking for, because everybody's asking for an exemption?
Right.
I don't know how it's going to work. I mean, I don't know. That's why I said the thing is out there, and that we
Right.
haven't heard a lot of concrete answers or even a real concrete proposal yet.
Right. And I think the way the government works, right? Government would much rather give a rebate than they would an exemption, right? Because once you start giving exemptions, right, where does it end,
Ah,
right? So government would prefer to tax you and then give you a rebate
so
or
then
abate the taxes later.
do you do you do
Because
do you find that to be an acceptable answer?
um I don't know.
Boy, I
I'm
bet
just
you
I'm
there.
just being no. I'm just being realistic, right?
Uh,
So they would the government, the way government works is pay the taxes now, overpay taxes.
uh,
We'll send you a refund. We'll give you a tax
or
refund later.
or that comes annually, or you've got to
Right,
apply for it.
right. They would they'll much
Wow,
prefer, oh, you didn't have your easy pass? I'm gonna charge you anyway. You call us and give us the easy pass number, and then we'll
wow,
take the ticket off. Right? Because you know what
wow.
that does? Because now there's a lot of people who are going to forget, are going to say, you know what? I don't have time.
Hmm.
Right?
This is, and the other thing that I wonder about, as somebody who has driven in the Bronx and New York City for literally a half a century, I wonder about the technology. They insist that the technology is clean. I mean, our city has, I mean, how many ways to get to 60th Street? How many avenues can you use? I mean, you're going to ride down Fifth Avenue and get to 60th Street. You're going to ride down the FDR. I mean, there's just 100 ways to get in. Are you confident the technology is going to work? I mean, just to
Um,
simply identify the license plates. Maybe I'm very naive. I mean, I'm an old-fashioned guy. I
no,
don't know.
I believe the technology is going to work because look
Really?
at it now. You can drive right now. You can drive and not have your easy pass, and they'll find you. They will.
Yes,
They'll
I
find you.
agree with that, but that, let's just say, the Throgs Neck Bridge, you go over the bridge, that's one spot, that they can
Right.
catch everybody. But I just feel like you're gonna have to do every avenue. I mean,
Right.
it's tough.
Well, right. No, it is tough. But
It's a
here's
fun
here's
exercise.
it is, but here's the interesting thing. The government is not going to do it. They're going to put an RFP out for a private vendor to figure it out.
Yeah.
So a private
Somebody's gonna
vendor,
make out. Yeah.
someone's going to, right? A private company is going to figure out the technology and then sell it to the government. And then now the
Right.
government will have that technology, you know?
Right. Are there elected officials or others who are around the table that are listening to the op-ed piece that you wrote or to the advocacy? I'm assuming
Oh
that
yeah.
your organization is not the only organization that considers this. I can't imagine Dominican organizations and other Hispanic organizations would not say, "Hey, we kind of agree with Sam on this."
Right, but here's the other thing. Like I mentioned earlier, traditionally immigrant organizations do not really play a role
Yeah.
significantly in the advocacy of things like this, right? Because you have to come very early to the table to have this conversation, right?
Right.
And then you have to almost be interested, right? And that's not to take away anything. It's just that I just so happen to be very interested in this. So I'm not sure if the other organization executive directors are personally interested, and then that turns into a policy, right? Or it turns into an op-ed, or it turns into
Right.
doing research to figure it out. I'm happy that our organization is able to have that conversation so that others can jump on board as well. But to answer your question really fast, there are elected officials who are like, whoa, 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 let's not rush through this. Let's take our
Well, that's
time
why
and
we
kind of
haven't
really
gotten anywhere. That's why we haven't gotten anywhere yet,
right,
right?
right.
And do you have in your mind, or I guess nobody has in their mind, about the timing on this, or when this is going to roll out, or I'm kind of like thinking about what's your next step. I feel like your next step is to keep elbowing your way in there, put out the op-ed piece, uh, petition elected officials who are going to be around the table. I mean, how do you see your next approach here? Because what you're saying makes total sense to me. The whole thing is complicated to me. So what are your thoughts on
Right. Well, look, the mere fact that, you were able to read and it sparked something in you, I think that's what we wanted. That was the whole point, right? To have people who have platforms such as yourself, Gary, right, who have Bronx Buzz, for other people who have platforms to have us come out and have us have the conversation so that we can raise awareness around this so that people can really think it through. I think sometimes I do believe the intention is right? But they also say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right?
that? I guess,
So
yeah.
like some people might their intentions might be right, but they don't understand what it's doing to different communities and different folks.
Right.
So my next steps is to keep the conversation alive, to talk to as many people as possible, and to hopefully get to a place where, because of that one little op-ed, people are now opening their
Yeah.
eyes, and a lot of change is happening from there.
Well, it's a fascinating discussion. We've been talking about congestion pricing for years, and the fact is we're a little closer now than we've ever been. But with every conversation I have, there's yet another wrinkle. There's somebody else that says, "Wait a minute, we shouldn't be charged this," or "What's the deal?" Basically, I mean, very, very intricate, very confusing, and I guess at this point. We'll just say thank you to Samuel Pierre for pointing it out, for representing the Haitian American Caucus, and we'll keep in touch about it. I certainly want to hear as much about it as we possibly can.
Thank you so much, Gary. If anyone's interested, I'm sure you can share our website and our links. They can click on. It's a free membership. Anybody can join. We'd love
Great,
to have you. Thank you so much for
great,
having me.
and also if you haven't read the city limits piece, do that. Fascinating. And Samuel, thank you for opening our eyes. We appreciate your time. And we're going to take a short break. And as I said in the beginning, when we come back, one of the best comic book creators in the Bronx will join us. Don't go away.